Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Monday, January 27th. We're back. We got 12 games on FanDuel, 10 on Draftkings, and we'll break them all down for Mega Monday. Now, I'm your host, Tyler Wiemann, at FlatTyler83 on your DFS sites and Twitter. Now come join us at LineStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, all the props, all the DFS. You get it all at one low price. Now, let's jump in and see what we can uncover here on this fine Monday afternoon. We got Kyrie Irving, 27% owned. And I would not be surprised if that's a little more than that. It is a giant slate, but him at 8,600 in a very good spot versus Washington. I think people are going to get kind of excited about going to him. And I don't mind it. I'm going to have a decent amount of him. I do, however, think people are getting a little too crazy with it. While he can absolutely pay off, can absolutely get to the 50s, I think most likely situation is he's mid-40s and doesn't do quite enough. Without Luka on the court, he's at 1.14 fantasy per minute so far this season, which, I mean, 1.14 and then a good matchup, you know, makes some sense to go to Kyrie here, absolutely, but I just don't think he should be pushing one of the chalkiest plays on the slate, and that's what we're seeing right now. Spencer Dinwiddie, 5,700, 25% owned. I don't mind going to some Dinwiddie as well. Similar situation. Now, Irving is there, so it takes some usage from Dinwiddie. So, you know, his mid-40s ceiling isn't going to be there, but can he get into the 30s? Mid-30s, absolutely, and I don't mind it on that price. Even low 40s is a possibility in this matchup, so I don't mind going there. 25% owned is a bit high, but I don't mind it. Next, we got Jordan Clarkson, 4,500, 24% owned. And look, Clarkson's clearly too cheap, but we have no clue how many minutes he's going to play. He's been out for a little over 3 weeks now. You know, he may be limited. Last time, however, he was out, 2 weeks, came back and played 31 minutes. So this is a foot injury, so maybe his conditioning isn't quite up there, but as long as he plays 24, 25 minutes, he starts to look pretty interesting, and I think he can totally get there. So Russell Westbrook, 6,700, 18% owned. I think he's probably about where he should be owned. While there is the big time ceiling with Aaron Gordon there, his minutes just aren't there where he's going to get 34 plus. If he's playing really well, maybe he gets, 32, 34, but I don't think he sees pluses on top of that. Now, at 29 minutes, 28 minutes, around where he's been playing, I don't mind him. But it is going to take a pretty good game from him, and with a healthy Denver team, might be a little hard to get there. You know, with Westbrook in this starting lineup, they kind of have a similar situation as, a Boston, not quite Boston, but where there's multiple mouths to feed that can get it done, but we can't consistently count on one. And that's kind of the issue with Denver, except for they have the true alpha in Jokic. Now, let's get into some pivot time. No Trae Young today. So I think there is a chance that Keaton Wallace steps in and starts. Now, we really have no idea if he gets there. He has been out for several games in a row, had that one start and played 38 minutes. So no clue what happens here. I would say that if he does not start, I'm totally off of him. If he starts, I'm going to have a ton. Now, unfortunately, they are, I think, a 5 o'clock game. Yeah, 5 o'clock game. So we may not know at 4 o'clock when the slate starts. 4 o'clock Pacific time, 5 o'clock Pacific time. I am on the West Coast. So, there is some volatility in liking Keaton Wallace. However, at 7,700, I definitely like Dyson Daniels. Without Trae Young, without Jalen Johnson. He's at 1.3 fantasy points per minute this season. While I do think that's too high for him, and I don't think he will be able to keep up those rates, I do think he's a pretty good play. And, on the season, 1.05 fantasy point per minute. And it's an okay spot. I don't mind getting some Dyson Daniels at 7,700 when last 3 games it's 40, 49, and 40. So he will need to get some steals and some blocks and such to get there, but he does have that possibility. Minnesota allowing 1.6 steals a game to the starting point guard if he's starting point guard. Shooting guard isn't a bad spot for him either if Wallace does start. Now, let's get into point guard on DraftKings. We got Jamal Murray. Oh, sorry. I apparently didn't refresh real quick from the last show. All right, so we got, still is Jamal Murray, 24% owned, 7,200. 37.92 4-hour projection versus Chicago. It's versus Chicago. It's obviously a good spot. 7,200 is not too bad. Like I said on Thursday or Friday, when the last show was, Jamal Murray is really good. He has huge ceilings, but that floor is pretty low as well. So he is a GPP play. These type of plays I generally don't like following the crowd with. Because they are a little higher owned, I like it a little bit less. I don't mind getting there. But as I just said with the Denver Nuggets, the ball can go a lot of different ways throughout the game. So I don't totally love it. I do think Westbrook's a little low owned here and don't mind going there. 8,900 for Irving is totally fine. Shooting guard on FanDuel. Pretty much all the same. We got Kyrie, we got Dinwiddie, we got Clarkson. But we do have Vit. I was high on Vit on Saturday, and that definitely paid off. Now, one thing I would watch for injury report. DeAndre Hunter has missed a couple. He's questionable. If he is out, there's a lot more room for Vit to get big time minutes. And that's kind of what happened the other day. He got 35 minutes opposed to his normal, which is 26, 27-ish. So if there's another guy out, if Hunter is out, I think Vit could step up and fill a spot with big time minutes and becomes pretty interesting at 4,600. But we do need to watch that minutes. Next, we got Zach LaVine, 8,100 versus the Denver Nuggets. There's no Kobe White. Ayo's likely to come off the bench again as Lonzo has entered the starting lineup. Now, the one thing that I think is really interesting with this Bulls, they have Giddey, Lonzo, and LaVine. All of them can run the offense. So you can really see a lot of switching off in this situation. But LaVine is obviously the most aggressive, and if that shot is falling and if he's taking a bunch of shots, there's big time ceiling. So I don't mind going to some Zach in this spot. There is the big time ceiling. Lonzo still a little limited, and then Giddey, his minutes is finally pushed up there a little bit, but his minutes are more questionable than LaVine's. LaVine's just going to play big time minutes, and if they're in the game, it's likely because he got hot. So I don't mind going there. And Dyson Daniels, we covered. Shooting guard on DraftKings. Jamal Murray, Kyrie Irving, Malik Monk, 7K, 14% owned. I don't mind going to some Monk. He's been playing really, really well lately. And then the Brooklyn Nets are nothing to write home about. It's also an away game, so a little bit more likely that the Nets are able to stay in this game, which is a little bit interesting. And, I mean, as a whole, it's not like the Kings have been great this season anyways. Small forward on FanDuel. We got Vit. We got Kyle Kuzma and Bilal Coulibaly. All right, so Kuzma, 6,200. My worry with Kuzma is that with Poole on the court, he's only like a 0.98 fantasy point per minute guy this season. Now, he has had a few big-time games. One off versus Phoenix, one off versus Minnesota, one off versus New Orleans. The big thing here is his minutes have been fluctuating big time, which is just hard. Now, this the Dallas Mavericks, without Luka, are favored by 12.5. So it just tells you how bad Washington is. And with that, they're playing guys all over the place, and minutes are varying big time. If it's a blowout, his minutes are going to get crunched. It very well could be a blowout, but if it's not a blowout, he starts to look pretty interesting because then he plays 34 minutes, and at pretty much a point per minute, he's, pushing 6x, just under 6x, 5.7x or something like that. So I don't mind taking some. However, I think he's getting a little over-owned here, but I'm going to have some. Bilal, 5,700, another spot that I don't mind a little bit. It is at least a high-paced game, and Bilal does have a little bit of a ceiling, but that ceiling is much lower with a healthy Kuzma and a healthy Jordan Poole. Levine, we covered. Josh Okogie, 3,900. All right. The big thing here is that he's been playing very, very well off the bench. 1.02 fantasy points per minute off the bench over the last 20 games, and he's finally getting some minutes. 20 last game, 31 the game before that, 13, 19. His minutes are in the air. Green, who he would, come in for most likely, is terrible. And there is absolutely a path to more minutes if he's playing well. Another thing is he can play some D. And so it's not a terrible idea for the Hornets to play him a little bit more to cover LeBron. So I don't mind having some Okogie there. Now, it is a little bit of a question mark, as how many minutes he's going to get, but there is at least a little bit of a path to extra minutes. Now, on a 12-game slate, kind of hard to go after this play too hard. And if more value opens, or I should say when more value opens, he's probably one of the guys I come off, but he's a little interesting to me. Paolo Banchero, 8,600. The price, he's only 8,600. Now he's in a tough spot versus the Heat, but there's a huge ceiling for Banchero. He went for 57 off them earlier in the season, had a 48 off them. Also, his minutes have crept up. 32, 33, and then 40 last game. So his minute restrictions off. He's clearly the alpha on the team. I'm a little interested to go there. RJ Barrett, 8K versus the New Orleans Pelicans, 234 total. So we got a high total, only a 3-point spread. It's an up-paced matchup, and without Quickly, he's like a 1.23 or 2.5 fantasy point per minute guy this season. I don't mind going here. We got a ceiling of 50, mid-50s, and it's a high-scoring game in a good spot for small forwards. Taurean Prince, 3,900. This is a spot. If there's more value, he's pretty much off for me, but we do have him at 29 minutes. I think you could push that down a little bit just because his minutes are a little bit volatile, but they do have some injuries, so maybe that's there to stay. Who knows for sure, but I don't mind Prince having a little bit. I just don't want to go hard on him. Small forward on DraftKings. Keyshawn George, 3,700. He started last game. If he starts this game at this price, he's interesting. If he doesn't start, I'm probably not really getting much. However, he is at least playing like that 24 to 30 minutes off the bench. So if you have him started, or if you're playing him and ends up he's not a starter, it's not the end of the world if you have him at this price. But if he starts, I just think his minutes are more secure, and it's more likely that he's going to get that 30-plus minute spot. And I don't mind going to some. Don't love it, don't mind it. He's just kind of there. Zach LaVine, we talked about. Thompson, 4,800. He played 30 minutes last game. So we have to really figure out if he is just going back to 24 minutes after this game, or if they have really raised his limit up to 30 minutes. I could tell you if he can play 30 minutes a night, I would have a ton of him at 4,800, but I don't know. So I'm willing to have some, but I'm not going to go hard on him. It's a little scary. DeAndre Hunter, 6K. If he plays, I don't mind it. He sat out due to illness last game. Does he come back for this game? I am not sure yet. And power forward on FanDuel, we got PJ Washington, 2,600. I do like PJ Washington in this spot versus the Wizards. I also do like Gafford. I got to say that. And I'm not trying to play Gafford and him together. My big thing is for either of those guys to really get there, they need to be hitting the boards. And because one's a power forward, one's a center, likelihood is only one of those guys gets there on the boards. Now, Washington could score 30 and only get 7 boards, and maybe both of them could be optimal, but I just think that likelihood is very, very low. So I only want one of these guys, but PJ Washington is in a very interesting spot. Very plus matchup versus Washington. Without Luka, he's like a just over 1 per minute guy, so I'm interested. Kuzma we covered. Giannis, 11.7K. It's versus the Jazz. He can obviously crush the Jazz. He's done well versus them in the past, but the issue is generally doesn't get big minutes because they blow him out, and it's almost a 10-point spread. Dorian Finney-Smith likely starts again. He played 26 minutes. Low fantasy per minute guy. Could he get there? Yes. But to me, it's just another pivot off of like a Prince or Keyshawn George. They're all pretty much the same play. Gonna get minutes, but will their shots go in is what it comes down to. AD, 11.4K. I love AD in this matchup. I think he absolutely crushes the Hornets. They're very plus on giving points to the center, and Lakers got to win some games, and this is the one that they need to win. It's also away, so maybe he plays his 36 minutes instead of his 34. Power forward on DraftKings, George, PJ Washington, Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon is 4,200. Chance of him hitting 5.8 to 6x is probably pretty high. Chance of him hitting 8, 9x is probably pretty low because he's going to play 23, 24 minutes, something like that. And I don't love that. It just limits his upside too much. However, 4,200 is cheap. Can he get it rolling, play an extra couple minutes? Probably. He's been back for long enough. I wouldn't be surprised if, his limit crunch is a little higher. And center spot on FanDuel, we got Daniel Gafford, 7,500, 20% owned. Look, since he got the starting spot with Lively and Powell out, there's been big-time minutes. 30, 20, 34, 33, 23, and 33. Those two, games in the lower 20s were both foul issues. So this is the thing. We don't really have anybody on Washington. We really need to worry about him getting in foul trouble. So that's the positive. Another positive is Washington's awful towards center. So very interesting spot, but he is high owned, and we do have that foul issue to think about for a center spot, which on FanDuel, you can only have one. So it's very important to nail this one. Think you can go there, but I don't mind if you get off. There's plenty of other center plays as well. Drew Eubanks, 4,200, 16% owned. He is likely to start. No John Collins, no Walker Kessler. 25 minutes, 31 minutes for his 2 starts this season. So I think you could safely put him at 25, what we have, and at 4,200. He's interesting. Don't mind going there. It's a fine spot. Jokic, 2,800. My only issue here is that the Nuggets should blow out the Bulls. Now, one thing is that the Nuggets are much worse away, so the chance of a blowout is a little lower. It's Jokic. Play him if you want. I don't mind going there. He can absolutely nuke the slate as he did the other night. And there's plenty of value to get there if you want. So, pivot-wise, we talked about AD already. Nikola Vucevic versus Denver. Jokic isn't great versus centers, and in my mind, the way you attack Nuggets is through him. I think you go at Jokic, try to get him in foul trouble, try to get him, to play a few less minutes, and that is your best chance to beat them. And Vooch is good enough offensively, moves well enough that he can absolutely do that. And we have a solid ceiling with him. We've seen him hit 60s. He hits 50s all the time and just went for 56 versus them last month. So can he do it? Yes. Has he done it? Yes. And you have Kobe White out, so minutes are a little more secure. Usage is a little more secure. Don't mind going there. Cat, 10.2K. At the beginning of the season, he was in the 8s, and I'm like, yeah, he's going to be a 10K player, and I'm all about him. He is a 10K player, and I am still all about him. He has been absolutely crushing it. 1.43 fantasy per minute over his last 20 games. Get a good spot versus Memphis, too. Give me some Cat. 10.2K. I don't mind it. One thing I do have to point out is that also Josh Hart is questionable. Towns will get a bump up if Hart is out. However, Jalen Brunson and Hart were going back and forth on Twitter about Hart leaving the Commanders game early, and his response to Brunson was, somebody's got to play defense tomorrow. So my expectation is that Hart is playing. It seems like he's healthy enough, or else he wouldn't have probably said somebody's got to play D. However, those two love to joke with each other, so no idea if he is in or out, but I think Cat's in a very, very good spot, and I want some of them. And on to DraftKings. Gafford, Jokic, PJ Washington, covered them all. That'll do it for us today, guys. Hope you guys found something worthy in this little show and got something out of it. I will be back tomorrow with a quick one. We only have 4 games tomorrow, so I will hit it, but it's going to be a quick one. You guys have a good one. Let's make some money on this fine Monday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.